So, welcome to the last portion of the Anatomy of Relationship course. And if you've made it this far, congratulations. I know that this was a lot. There's definitely the potential this brought up some difficult feelings. So, just to bring it home, I want to take a moment and just zoom out and reflect. So, my guess is that the secure relationship that you examined, that wherever you are in reality with this person, that your A and B are very close to each other. So there's probably not a lot of tension about where you desire to be and where they desire to be. And the highest good of the relationship and where you actually are is also pretty close. So you don't need to be down here in sacred and trustworthy for a relationship to be secure. You could have a relationship like I can think of maybe someone I play soccer with. I have a very secure relationship. We're solid common ground. We're on the same page about that. We have the same desire to be connected. That would be an example of a secure relationship. Moving into anxious attachment. So if you are anxiously attached, it's likely you want to be somewhere down here and the other person, wants to be somewhere down here. And of course, there are so many different versions of being anxiously attached that I can't really cover them all here. But whatever that distance is between where you want to be and where they want to be, I just want to take a moment, put my hand on my heart with you and just say, I know that that is very uncomfortable. What I would ask you is, what is the invitation to self that might be useful in this relationship? Because I'll just give an example. I have seen this a lot with my clients where they really want to be here with a partner, and where their partner is showing up to be available, let's say, is here. And often in this situation, the client will say to me, well, I've given them all these invitations already to come up here, right? And if they would just go to therapy, if they would just do their work, then they could meet me here. Man, do I have compassion for that situation. And yeah, it's very possible that their partner needs to be in therapy. In that moment, when the invitation has not been met over and over and over again, the next question I will ask is, where on the spectrum today are you with yourself? Because that is where you have some ability to get into empowerment. And often when I ask that question, the client will go, oh, and they'll kind of drop their shoulders and they'll realize that in the effort to bring their partner up to this higher form of intimacy, they have dropped in their ability to show up for themselves. So if you've given an invitation to someone else and it's not working, my next question is, where are you today on the spectrum? So moving on to an avoidant relationship dynamic. So I'll kind of come up with an example here. Like, let's say you really want to stay here with your mother. This is just a kind of archetypal situation I see a lot. And your mother really wants to be here with you. And it would probably be in the highest good to remain, somewhere around here with your mother. But because of the amount of discomfort with this being so far apart, that your mother is very anxious with you, and so there's a lot of pressure, and so you really want to be here, but because this is so uncomfortable, where you're actually showing up is maybe down here, like barely calling your mom back, not showing up for events with your mom, Totally understandable, because this is really uncomfortable when you want to be here and the other person wants to be here. But really, because you do love your mom and maybe you love your other family members, it would be in the highest good to try to actually be in common ground with your mom. So in this example, my question would be, do you have trust with yourself today? Like, where are you on the spectrum with yourself? Because if your relationship with your mom makes it impossible for you to maintain these higher levels of intimacy with yourself, then what that tells me is that you have a knowing that being in common ground is going to be really challenging with your mom. And so this might be a great relationship to practice, some experiential or psychodrama work with a provider, a therapist, a coach, a sponsor, on how you can stay in common ground with your mom while staying in sacred and trustworthy with yourself. Because, our moms, our dads are often the people that installed these relational triggers in us, and it makes total sense. So this is an example of how I might go deeper with someone if they are showing up avoidantly. So lastly, we're going to just talk about an ambivalent attachment. And let's say that in that ambivalent attachment, you are currently showing up in common ground, but you would really like to show up maybe in trustworthy. This is where you really want to be. And maybe even the other person would like to be in trustworthy. So we'll say this is like maybe a new dating relationship. But what's happening is that every time you invite this person to shift up here, you freak out and you want to go back down here. Okay. So this shows up a lot when I do this workshop with groups, is people will come up and be like, well, I really want to be here. I think they also want to be here, but one or both of us freaks out and we end up back down here. So this is another example where I'll say to them, okay, well, where are you with yourself today? And more often than not, they are trying to move the relationship to deeper intimacy than where they are consistently with themselves. So the advice in those dynamics would be like, let's invite yourself into more sacred and trustworthy intimacy. And also, it's possible that something about the dynamic between the two of you is activating a historical trauma. So this would be a great relationship to take to a coach or a therapist and just say, what about my relational history is causing me to run back down here every time I touch into this form of intimacy? So that's it for this workshop. I hope that you got something out of it. And I cannot wait to hear from you about the impact this had. Thank you so much. And I look forward to connecting with you soon.